Meditation according to Yoga. What is meditation? What is meditation? Meditation is a power which enables us to resist all this. Nature may call us, "Look, there's a beautiful thing." I do not look. Now she says there is a beautiful smell. Smell it. I say to my nose, "Do not smell it." And the nose doesn't. Eyes, do not see. Nature does such an awful thing. Kills one of my children and says, "Now, rascal, sit down and weep. Go to the depths." I say I don't have to. I jump up. I must be free. Try it sometimes. In meditation, for a moment you can change this nature. Now if you had the power in yourself, would not that be heaven? Freedom? That is the power of meditation. How is it to be attained? In a dozen different ways. Each temperament has its own way. But this is a general principle. Get hold of the mind. The mind is like a lake, and every stone that drops into it raises waves. These waves do not let us see what we are. The full moon is reflected in the water of the lake, but the surface is so disturbed that we do not see the reflection clearly. Let it be calm. Do not let nature raise the wave. Keep quiet, and then for a little while she will give you up. Then we know what we are. God is there already, but the mind is so agitated, always running after the senses. You close the eyes, and yet you whirl and whirl about. Just this moment I think I am all right, and I will meditate upon God. And then my mind goes to London in 1 minute. And if I pull it away from there, it goes to New York to think about the things I have done there in past. These waves are to be stopped by the power of meditation. The gate to bliss. Meditation is the gate to bliss that opens that to us. Prayers, ceremonials, and all the other forms of worships are simply kindergartens of meditation. You pray, you offer something. A certain theory exists that everything raised one's spiritual power. They use a certain words, flowers, images, temples, ceremonials, like the waving of the light brings to the mind, to that attitude. But that attitude is always in the human soul, nowhere else. People are all doing it, but what they do without knowing, do knowingly. That is the power of meditation. Slowly and gradually we are to train ourselves. It is no joke, not a question of a day or years or maybe of births. Never mind, the pull must go on. Knowingly, voluntarily, the pull must go on. Inch by inch we will gain ground. We will begin to feel and get real possessions, which no one can take away from us. The wealth that no one man can take, the wealth that nobody can destroy, the joy that no misery can hurt any more. In search of truth. Yoga is the science which teaches us how to get these perceptions. It is not much use to talk about religion until one has felt it. Why is there so much disturbance, so much fighting and quarreling in the name of God? There has been more bloodshed in the name of God than for any other cause, because people never went to the fountainhead. They were content only giving the mental assent to the customs of their forefathers and wanted others to do the same. What right has a man to say when he has a soul if he does not feel it, or that there is God if he does not see him? If there is God, we must see him. If there is a soul, we must perceive it. Otherwise it is better not to believe. It is better to be an outspoken atheist than a hypocrite. Man wants truth, wants to experience truth for himself. When he has grasped it, realized it, felt it within his hearts of hearts, then alone, declare the Vedas, would all doubt vanish, all darkness be scattered, and all crookedness be made straight. How restless is the mind? How hard is it to control the mind? What has been compared to the maddened monkey? There was a monkey restless by his own nature, as all monkeys are. As if that was not enough that someone made him drink freely of wine, so that he became more restless. Then a scorpion stung him. When a man is stung by a scorpion, he jumps about for a whole day. So the poor monkey found his condition worse than ever. To complete his misery, a demon entered him. What language can describe the uncontrollable restlessness of that monkey? The human mind is like that monkey, incessantly active by its own nature. Then it becomes drunk with the wine of desire, thus increasing its turbulence. After desire takes possession comes the sting of the scorpion of jealousy as the success of others, and last of all, the demon of pride enters the mind, making to think of itself all importance. How hard to control such a mind! A tremendous task. According to the yogis, there are three principal nerve currents. One they call the Ida, the other Pingala, and the middle one Sushmana. And all these are inside spinal column. The Ida and the Pingala, the left and the right are the clusters of nerves, while the middle one, Sushumna, is a hollow and is not a cluster of nerves. This Sushumna is closed and for the ordinary man is of no use, for he works through the Ida and Pingala only. Currents are continually going down and coming up through these nerves, carrying orders all over the body through other nerves running to different organs of the body. The task before us is vast, and the first and foremost we must seek to control the vast mass of sunken thoughts which have become automatic with us. The evil deed is, no doubt, on the conscious plane, but the cause which produced the evil deed was far beyond in the realms of the unconscious, unseen, and therefore more potent. This is the first part of the study, the control of the unconscious. The next is to go beyond the conscious. So therefore we see now that there must be a twofold work. First, by the proper working of Ida and the Pingala, which are the two existing ordinary currents, to control the subconscious action, and secondly, to go beyond even consciousness. He alone is a yogi who, after long practice in self-concentration, has attained to this truth. The Sushmana now opens, and a current which never there before entered into this new passage will find its way into it, and gradually ascend to what we call in figurative language the different lotus centers, till at last it reaches the brain. Then the yogi becomes conscious of what he really is, God himself. Environment for meditation. Those of you who can afford it will do better to have a room for this practice alone. Do not sleep in that room. It must be kept holy. You must not enter the room until you have bathed and are perfectly clean in body and mind. Place flowers in that room always. They are the best surroundings for a yogi. Also pictures that are pleasing. Burn incense morning and evening. Have no quarreling, nor anger, nor unholy thought in this room. Only allow the two persons to enter this, who are of the same thought as you. Then gradually there will be an atmosphere of holiness in this room, so that when you are miserable, sorrowful, doubtful, or your mind is disturbed, the very fact of entering the room will make you calm. This was the idea of the temple and the church, and in some temples and the churches you will find it even now. But in the majority of them, the very idea has been lost. The idea is that by keeping holy vibrations there, the place becomes and remains illuminated. Those who cannot afford to have a room set apart can practice anywhere they like. Requisites for meditation. Where there is fire, or in the water, or on ground, which is strewn with dry leaves, where there are many ant hills, where there are wild animals or danger, where four streets meet, where there is too much noise, where there are many wicked persons, yoga must not practice. These applies more particularly to India. Do not practice when the body feels very lazy or ill, or when the mind is very miserable and sorrowful. Go to a place which is well hidden and where people do not come to disturb you. Do not choose dirty places. Rather, choose beautiful scenery or a room in your own house which is beautiful. When you practice, first salute all the ancient yogis and your own guru and God, and then begin. Time for meditation. You must practice at least twice every day, and the best times are towards the morning and the evening. When night passes into day and day into night, a state of relative calmness ensues. The early morning and the early evening are the two periods of calmness. Your body will have a like tendency to become calm at those times. We should take advantage of that natural condition and begin then to practice. Make it a rule not to eat until you have practiced. If you do this, the sheer force of hunger will break your laziness. In India, they teach children never to eat until they have practiced or worshipped, and it becomes natural to them after a time. A boy will not feel hungry until he has bathed and practiced. Now pray. Mentally repeat. Let all beings be happy, let all beings be peaceful, let all beings be blissful. So do to the east, south, north, and west. The more you do that, the better you will feel yourself. You will find at last that the easiest way to make ourselves healthy is to see that others are healthy. And the easiest way to make ourselves happy is to see that others are happy. After doing that, those who believe in God should pray. Not for money, not for health, nor for heaven. Pray for knowledge and light. Every other prayer is selfish. The first lesson. Sit for some time and let the mind run on. The mind is bubbling up all the time. It is like the monkey jumping about. Let the monkey jump as much as he can. You simply wait and watch. Knowledge is power, says the proverb, and that is true. Until you know what the mind is doing, you cannot control it. Give it the rein. Many hideous thoughts might come to you. You will be astonished that it was possible for you to think such thoughts. But you will find that each day the mind vagaries are becoming less and less violent, that each day it is becoming calmer. Give up all argumentation and other distraction. Is there anything in dry intellectual jargon? If only the mind is off balance and distracted. Things of subtler planes have to be realized. Will talking do that? So give up all the vain talk. Read only those books which have been written by persons who have had realization. Now think. Think of your own body and see that it is strong and healthy. It is the best instrument you have. Think of it as being as strong as adamant, and that with the help of this body you will cross the ocean of life. Freedom is never to be reached by the weak. Throw away all weakness. Tell your body that it is strong. Tell your mind that it is strong. And have unbounded faith and hope in yourself. A few examples of meditation. Imagine a lotus on top of your head, several inches up, with virtue as its center and knowledge at its stalk. The 8 petals of the lotus are the 8 powers of the yogi. Inside the stamens and pistils are renunciation. If the yogi refuses the external powers, he will come to salvation. So the 8 petals of the lotus are the 8 powers, but the internal stamens and pistils are extreme renunciation, the renunciation of all these powers. Inside of the lotus, think of the Golden One, the Almighty, the Intangible, He whose name is Om, the Inexpressible, surrounded with effulgent light. Meditate on that. Another meditation is given. Think of a space in your heart, and in the midst of the space, think that a flame is burning. Think of that flame as your own soul, and inside the flame is another effulgent light, and that is the soul of your soul, God. Meditate upon that in the heart. How to reach the goal. Whether you live or die does not matter. You have to plunge in and work without thinking of the result. If you are brave enough, in 6 months you will be a perfect yogi. But those who take up just a bit of it and a little of everything else makes no progress. It is of no use simply to take a course of lessons. To succeed, you must have tremendous perseverance, tremendous will. I will drink the ocean, says a persevering soul. At my will, mountains will crumble up. Have that sort of energy, that sort of will. Work hard, and you will reach the goal. Be careful. Every motion is in a circle. So if you can take up a stone and project it into space and then live long enough, that stone, if it meets no obstruction, will come back exactly to your hand. A straight line, infinitely projected, must end in a circle. Therefore, this idea that the destiny of man is progressing ever forward and never stopping is absurd. Although extraneous to the subject, I may remark that this idea explains the ethical theory that you must not hate and must love. Because, just as in the case of electricity, the modern theory is that power leaves the dynamo and completes the circle back to the dynamo, so with hate and love, they must come back to the source. Therefore, do not hate anybody, because that hatred which comes out of you must, and in the long run, come back to you. If you love, that love will come back to you, completing the circle. The mind lake. The bottom of a lake we cannot see because its surface is covered with ripples. It is only possible for us to catch a glimpse of the bottom when the ripples have subsided and the water is calm. If the water is muddy or is agitated all the time, the bottom will not be seen. If it is clear and there are no waves, we shall see the bottom. The bottom of the lake is our own true self. The lake is a chitta and the waves are the vrittis. Again, the mind is in 3 states, one of which is darkness, called tamas, found in the brutes and the idiots. It only acts to injure. No other idea comes into that state of mind. Then there is the active state of mind, rajas, whose chief motives are power and enjoyment. I will be powerful and rule others. Then there is a state called sattva, serenity, calmness, in which the waves cease and the water of the mind lake becomes clear. Mind and its control. Meditation is one of the great means of controlling the rising of these waves. By meditation, you can make the mind subdue these waves, and if you go on practicing meditation for days and months and years until it has become a habit, until it will come in spite of yourself, anger and hatred will be controlled and checked. Be cheerful. The first sign that you are becoming religious is that you are becoming cheerful. When a man is gloomy, that may be dyspepsia, but it is not religion. To the yogi, everything is bliss. Every human face that he sees brings cheerfulness to him. That is a sign of a virtuous man. Misery is caused by sin and by no other cause. What business have you with clouded faces? It is terrible. If you have a clouded face, do not go out that day. Shut yourself up in your room. What right do you have to carry this disease out into the world? The signs of a yogi. He who hates none, who is a friend of all, who is merciful to all, who has nothing of his own, who is free from egoism, who is even-minded in pain and pleasure, who is forbearing, who is always satisfied, who works always in yoga, whose self has become controlled, whose will is firm, whose mind and intellect are given up into me, such a one is my beloved Bhakt, from whom comes no disturbance, who cannot be disturbed by others, who is free from joy, anger, fear, and anxiety. Such a one is my beloved. He who does not depend on anything, who is pure and active, who does not care whether the good comes or evil, and never becomes miserable, who has given up all efforts for himself, who is the same in praise or in blame, with a silent, thoughtful mind, blessed with that what little comes his way, homeless for the whole world in his home, and who is steady in his ideas, such a one is my beloved Bhakt. Such alone become yogis. Be like a pearl oyster. There is a pretty Indian fable to the effect that if it rains when the star Swati is in the ascendant and a drop of rain falls into an oyster, that drop becomes a pearl. The oysters know this. They come to the surface when the star shines and wait to catch the precious raindrop. When a raindrop falls on them, quickly the oysters close their shells and dive down to the bottom of the sea, there to patiently develop the drop into the pearl. We should be like that. First hear, then understand, and then leave all distraction, shut your minds to outside influence, and devote yourself to developing the truth within you. Patience. There was a great god sage called Narad. Just as there are sages among mankind, great yogis, so there are great yogis among the gods. Narad was a good yogi and very great. He traveled everywhere. One day he was passing through the forest and saw a man who had been meditating until the white ants had built a huge mound around his body, so long that he had been sitting in that position. He said to Narad, "Where are you going?" Narad replied, "I am going to heaven." Then ask God when he will be merciful to me, when I shall attain freedom. Further on, Narad saw another man. He was jumping about, singing, dancing, and said, "Oh, Narad, where are you going?" His voice and his gestures were wild. Narad said, "I'm going to heaven." Then ask where I shall be free. Narad went on. In the course of time, he came again by the same road, and there was a man who had been meditating with the ant hill around him. He said, "Oh, Narad, did you ask the Lord about me?" "Oh, yes. What did he say?" "The Lord told me that you would attain freedom and 4 more birds." Then the man began to weep and wail and said, "I have meditated until an ant hill has grown around me, and I have 4 more birds yet?" Narad went on to the other man. "Did you ask my question?" "Oh, yes." "Do you see this tamarind tree? I have to tell you that as many leaves there are on the tree, so many times you shall be born, and then you shall attain freedom." The man began to dance for joy and said, "I shall have freedom after such a short time." A voice came, "My child, you will have freedom this minute." That was a reward for his perseverance. He was ready to work through all those birds. Nothing discouraged him. In the realm of tranquility, the greatest help to spiritual life is meditation, dhyan. In meditation, we divest ourselves of all material conditions and feel our divine nature. We do not depend upon any external help in meditation. The touch of the soul can paint the brightest color even in the dingiest places. It can cast a fragrance over the vilest thing. It can make the wicked divine, and all enmity, all selfishness is effaced. The less the thought of the body, the better, for it is the body that drags us down. It is attachment, identification, which makes us miserable. That is the secret. To think that I am the spirit and not the body, and that the whole universe, with all its relations, with all its good and all its evil, is but a series of paintings, seen on a canvas, of which I am the witness. Transformation through meditation. There was a young man that could not in any way support his family. He was strong and vigorous and finally became a highway robber. He attacked persons in the street and robbed them, and with that money he supported his father, mother, wife, and children. This went on continually, until one day a great saint called Narad was passing by, and the robber attacked him. The sage asked the robber, "Why are you going to rob me? It is a great sin to rob human beings and kill them. Why do you incur for all this sin for?" The robber said, "Why, I want to support my family with this money." "Now," said the sage, "do you think that they take share of your son also?" "Certainly they do," replied the robber. "Very good," said the sage. "Make me safe by tying me up here while you go home and ask your people whether they will share your son in the same way as they share the money you make." The money, according to went to his father and asked, "Father, do you know how I support you?" He answered, "No, I do not. I am a robber and I kill persons and rob them." "What? You do that, my son? Get away, you outcast." He then went away to his mother and asked, "Mother, do you know how I support you?" "No," she replied, "through robbery and murder." "How horrible it is!" cried the mother. "But do you partake in my sin?" said the son. "Why should I? I never committed a robbery," answered the mother. Then he went on to his wife and questioned her. "Do you know how I maintain you all?" "No," she responded. "Why, I'm a highwayman," he rejoined, "and for years I've been robbing people, and this is how I support and maintain you all. And what I now want to know is whether you're ready to share in my skin." "By no means. You are my husband, it is your duty to support me." The eyes of the robber were opened. "That is the way of the world. Even my nearest relatives, for whom I've been robbing, will not share it in my destiny." He came to the place where he had bound the sage, unfastened his bonds, fell at his feet, and recounted everything, and said, "Save me. What can I do?" The sage said, "Give up your present course of life. You see that none of your family really loves you, so give up all these delusions. They will share your prosperity, but the moment you have nothing, they will desert you. There is none who will share in your evil, but they will all share in your good. Therefore, worship him who alone stands by us whether we are doing good or evil. He never leaves us, for love never drags down. Knows no barter, no selfishness." Then the sage taught him how to worship. And this man left everything and went into the forest. There he went on praying and meditating until he forgot himself so entirely that ants came and built ant hills around him, and he was quite unconscious of it. After many years had passed, a voice came saying, "Arise, O sage." Thus arose he exclaimed, "Sage, I am a robber." "No more robber," answered the voice. "A purified sage art thou. Thine old name is gone, and now, since thy meditation was so deep and great that thou didst not remark even the ant hills which surrounded thee, henceforth thy name shall be Valmiki, said that was born in the ant hill." So he became a sage. 3 stages of meditation. There are 3 stages in meditation. The first is what is called dharan, concentrating the mind upon any object. I try to concentrate my mind upon this glass, excluding every other object from my mind except that glass. But the mind is wavering. When it has become strong, it does not waver so much. It is called dhyan, meditation. And then there is a higher rate state when the differentiation between the glass and myself is lost. Samadhi, or absorption. The mind and the glass are identical. I do not see any difference. All the senses stop, and all the powers that have been working through other channels and other senses are focused in the mind. Then this glass is under the power of the mind entirely. This is to be realized. It is a tremendous play played by the yogis. How to rest. Meditation means that the mind is turned back upon itself. The mind stops all the thought waves and the world stops. Your consciousness expands. Every time you meditate, you will keep your growth. Work a little harder, more and more, and the meditation comes. You do not feel the body or anything else. When you come out of it after the hour, you have had the most beautiful rest you have ever had in your life. That is the only way you ever give rest to your system. Not even the deepest sleep will give you such a rest as that. The mind goes on jumping even in the deepest sleep. Just those few minutes in the meditation, your brain has almost stopped. Just a little vitality is keeping up. You forgot the body, maybe cut to pieces and not feel it at all. You feel such pleasure in it. You become so light. This perfect rest we get in the meditation. Action becomes reaction. In every phenomena in nature, you contribute at least half, and the nature brings half. If your half is taken off, the thing must stop. To every action, there is an equal reaction. If a man strikes me and wounds me, it is that man's action and my body's reaction. Let us take another example. You are dropping stones upon the smooth surface of the lake. Every stone you drop is followed by a reaction. The stone is covered by the little waves in the lake. Similarly, external things are like the stones dropping into the lake of the mind. So we do not really see the external, and we see the wave only. The power of meditation. The power of meditation gets us everything. If you want to get power over nature, you can have it through meditation. It is through the power of meditation all scientific facts are discovered today. They study the subject and forget everything, their own identity and everything. And then the great fact comes like a flash. Some people think that is inspiration. There is no inspiration. Whatever passes for inspiration is a result that comes from causes already in the mind. One day, flash, comes the result. Their past work was the cause. Therein also you see the power of meditation, intensity of thought. These men churn up their own souls. Great truths come to the surface and become manifest. Therefore, the practice of meditation is a great scientific method of knowledge. Meditation is a science. Whatever exists is one. There cannot be many. That is what is meant by science and knowledge. Ignorance sees manifold. Knowledge realizes one. Reducing the many into one is science. The whole of the universe has been demonstrated into one. The science is called the science of Vedanta. The whole universe is one. We have all these variations now, and we see them what we call the 5 elements: solid, liquid, gaseous, luminous, ethereal. Meditation consists of this practice of dissolving everything into the ultimate reality, spirit. The solid melts into liquid, that into gas, gas into ether, then mind, and mind will melt away. All is spirit. Meditation, comes by the process of imagination. You go through all these processes of purification of the elements, making the one melt into the other, then into the next higher, into the mind, and into spirit, and then you are spirit. Here is a huge mouse of clay. Out of the clay I made a little mouse, and you made a little elephant. Both are clay. Melt both down. They are essentially one. Bhavahari Baba, an ideal yogi. Everyone has heard of the thief who had become to steal from his ashram, and who is at the sight of the saint got frightened and ran away, leaving the goods he had stolen in a bundle behind. Now the saint stood up in the bundle and ran after the thief, and came up to him after miles of hard running. How the saint laid the bundle at the feet of the thief with the folded hands, and tears in his eyes asked his pardon for his own intrusion, and begged hard for his acceptance of the goods, since they belonged to him and not to himself. We are also told on reliable authority how once he was bitten by a cobra, and though he was given up for hours as dead, he revived, and when his friends asked him about it, he only replied that the cobra was a messenger from the beloved. One of his great peculiarities was his entire absorption at the time in the task in hand, however trivial. The small amount of care and attention was bestowed in cleaning a copper pot, as in the worship of Sri Raghunathanji, he himself being the best example of the secret he once told us to work. That means should be loved and cared for as if it were the end itself. The present writer, Swami Vivekananda, had occasion to ask the saint the reason of his not coming out of his cave to help the world. He gave the following reply: Do you think that physical help is the only help possible? It is not possible that one mind can help other minds even without the activity of the body. A fable about Buddha. When Buddha was born, he was so pure that whoever looked at his face from a distance immediately gave up the ceremonial religion, became a monk, and became saved. So the gods held a meeting. They said, "We are undone, because most of the gods live upon ceremonials. These sacrifices go to the gods, and these sacrifices were all gone. The gods were dying of hunger, and the reason for it was that their power was gone. So the gods said, "We must anyhow put this man down. He is too pure for our life." And then the gods came down and said, "Sir, we come to ask you something. We want to make a great sacrifice, and we mean to make a huge fire, and we have all been seeking all over the world for a pure spot to light the fire on, and could not find it. And now we have found it. If you will lie down on your breast, we will make the huge fire." "Granted," he says. "Go on." And the gods built the fire high upon the breast of Buddha, and they thought he was dead, and he was not. And then they went about and said, "We are undone." And all the gods began to strike him. No good. They could not kill him. From underneath the voice comes, "Why are you making all these vain attempts? Whoever looks upon you becomes purified and is saved, and nobody is going to worship us. Then your attempt is vain, because purity can never be killed." A Song of Samadhi, rendered from Bengali. Lo, the sun is not, nor the comely moon. All light extinct in the great void of space. Floats shadow-like the image universe. In the void of mind involute, there floats. The fleeting universe rises and floats. Sinks again, ceaseless, in the current eye, slowly and slowly, the shadow multitude. Entered the primal womb, and floats ceaseless, the only current, the I am, I am. Lo, it is stopped, even the current flows no more. Void merged into void beyond the speech and mind, whose heart understands, he verily does. Questions and answers. Question. Whom can we call a guru? Answer. He who can tell your past and future is your guru. Question. Who can one have bhakti? Answer. There is bhakti within you. Only a veil of lust and wealth covers it, and as soon as that is removed, bhakti will manifest by itself. Question. Can a man attain mukti by image worship? Answer. Image worship cannot directly give mukti. It may be an indirect cause, a help on the way. Image worship should not be condemned, for with many it prepares the mind for the realization of Advaita, which alone makes the man perfect. What is mukti? Liberation. Answer. Mukti means entire freedom. Freedom from the bondages of good and evil. A golden chain is as much the chain as an iron one. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that to pick out one thorn which has struck to the foot, another thorn is requisitioned. When the thorn is taken out, both are thrown away. So the bad tendencies are to be counteracted by the good ones, but after that, the good tendencies have also to be conquered. Question. How can Vedanta be realized? Answer. By hearing, reflection, and meditation. Hearing must take place from a Sadguru. Even if one is not a regular disciple, but is a fit aspirant, and hears a Sadguru's words, he is liberated. Question. Where should one meditate, inside the body or outside it? Should the mind be withdrawn inside or held outside? Answer. We should try to meditate inside. As for the mind being here or there, it will take a long time before we reach the mental plane. Now our struggle is with the body. When one acquires a perfect steadiness in posture, then and then alone one begins to struggle with the mind. Asana, posture, being conquered, one's limbs remain motionless and one can sit as long as one pleases. Question. Sometimes one gets tired of jap, repetition of mantra. Should one continue it or read some good book instead? Answer. One gets tired of jap for two reasons. Sometimes one's brain is fatigued. Sometimes it is a result of idleness. If the former, then one should give up jap for the time being, for the persistence in it at the time results in seeing hallucinations or in lunacy, etc. But if the latter, the mind should be forced to continue jap. Question. Is it good to practice japa for a long time, though the mind may be wandering? Answer. Yes. As some people break a wild horse by always keeping his seat on his back. Why is the efficacy of prayer? By prayer, one's subtle powers are easily roused, and if consciously done, all desires may be fulfilled by it. But done unconsciously, one perhaps is 10 is fulfilled. Such prayer, however, is selfish and should therefore be discarded. Question. You have written in your Bhakti Yoga that if a weak-bodied man tries to practice yoga, a tremendous reaction comes. Then what to do? Answer. What fear if you die in the attempt to realize the self? Man is not afraid of dying for the sake of learning and many other things. And why should you fear to die for religion? Experience and verification. Swamiji. One day in the temple garden at Dakshineshwar, Sri Ramakrishna touched me over the heart, and first of all I began to see that the houses, rooms, doors, windows, verandas, the trees, sun, moon, all were flying off, shattering to pieces as it were, reduced to atoms and molecules, and ultimately become merged in the Akash. Gradually again the Akash also vanished, and after that my consciousness of ego with it. What happened next I do not recollect. I was at first frightened. Coming back from that state again, I began to see houses, doors, windows, verandas, and other things. On another occasion, I had the exact same realization by the side of a lake in America. Disciple. Might not the state as well be brought about by a derangement of the brain? And I do not understand what happiness there can be in realizing such a state. Swamiji. A derangement of the brain? How can you call it so, when it comes neither as a result of delirium from any disease, nor of intoxication from drinking, nor as an illusion produced by various sorts of queer breathing exercises? But when it comes to the normal man, in full possession of his health and wits, then again this experience is in perfect harmony with the Vedas. It also coincides with the words of realization of the inspired rishis and acharyas of old. How to be detached. Almost all of our suffering is caused by not having the power of detachment. So along with the development of concentration, we also must develop the power of detachment. We must learn not only to attach the mind to one thing exclusively, but also to detach it at a moment's notice and place it on something else. These two should be developed together to make it safe. This is the systematic development of the mind. To me, the very essence of education is concentrated of mind and not the collecting of facts. If I had to do my education over again and had any voice in the matter, I would study facts at all. I would develop the power of concentration and detachment, and then a perfect instrument I could collect facts at will. We should put our minds on things. They should not draw our minds to them. We should usually forced to concentrate. Our minds are forced to become fixed upon different things by an attraction in them which we cannot resist. To control the mind, to place it just where we want it, requires special training. How to study the mind. The mind uncontrolled and unguided will drag us down, down forever, rend us, kill us, and the mind controlled and guided will save us, free us. So it must be controlled, and psychology teaches us how to do it. To study and analyze any material science, sufficient data are obtained. These facts are studied and analyzed, and a knowledge of the science is the result. But in the study, the analysis of the mind, there is no data, no facts acquired from without. Such are equally at all the command of all. The mind is analyzed by itself. The greatest science, therefore, is the science of the mind, the science of psychology. Deep, deep within is the soul, the essential man, the Atman. Turn the mind inward and become united to that, And from that standpoint of stability, the gyrations of the man can be watched and facts observed, which are to be found in all persons. To control the mind, you must go deep down into the subconscious mind, classify and arrange in all the different impressions, thoughts, etc., stored up there and control them. This is the first step. By the control of the subconscious mind, you get control over the conscious. Practical hints on meditation. Swami Siddhananda asked, "What is the real nature of meditation, sir?" Swamiji. Meditation is the focusing of the mind on some object. If the mind acquires concentration of one object, it can be so concentrated on any object whatsoever. Disciple. Mention is made in the scriptures of two kinds of meditation, one having the same object and the other objectless. What is meant by all that? Which of the two is the higher one? Swamiji. First, the practice of meditation has to be preceded with one object before the mind. Once I used to concentrate my mind on some blank point. Ultimately, during those days, I could not see the point anymore, nor notice that the point was before me at all. The mind used to become no more, no wave of functioning would rise as if it were in all an ocean without any breath of air. In that state, I used to experience glimpses of supersensuous truth. So I think the practice of meditation, even with some trifling external object, leads to mental concentration. But it is true that the mind very easily attains calmness when one practices meditation with anything on which one's mind is most apt to settle down. This is the reason why we have in this country so much worship of the images of gods and goddesses. And what wonderful art developed from such worship. But no more of that now. The fact, however, is that objects of meditation can never be the same in case of all men. People have proclaimed and preached to others only those external objects to which they held on to become perfected in meditation. Oblivious of the fact, later on all these objects are aided to attainment of perfect mental calmness. Men have extolled them beyond everything else. They have wholly concentrated themselves with the means, getting comparatively unmindful of the end. The real aim is to make the mind functionless. But this cannot be got at unless one becomes absorbed in some subject. Disciple. But if the mind becomes completely engrossed and identified with some object, how can it give us the consciousness of Brahman? Swamiji. Yes, through the mind at first assumes the form of an object, yet later on the consciousness of the object vanishes. Then only the experience of pureness remains. Supernatural powers. Swamiji said it is possible to acquire miraculous powers by some little degree of mental concentration, and turning to the disciple, he asked, "Well, should you like to learn thought reading? I can teach that to you in 4 or 5 days." Disciple. Of what avail will it be to me, sir? Swamiji. Why, you would be able to know others' minds. Disciple. Will that help my attainment of knowledge of Brahman? Swamiji. Not a bit. Disciple. Then I have no need to learn that science. Swamiji. But Sri Radhakrishna used to disparage these supernatural powers. His teaching was that one cannot attain to the supreme truth if the mind is diverted to the manifestation of these powers. The human mind, however, is so weak that not to speak of householders, even 90% of the sadhus happen to be votaries of these powers. In the West, men are lost in wonderment if they came across such miracles. It is only because Sri Ramakrishna has mercifully made us understand the evil of these powers as being hindrances to real spirituality that we are able to take them at proper value. Haven't you noticed how, for the reason, the children of Sri Ramakrishna pay no heed to them? The mystery of Samadhi. Disciple. On the attainment of the absolute and transcendent Nirvikalpa Samadhi, can none return to the world of duality through the consciousness of egoism? Swamiji. Sri Ram Radhakrishna used to say that the avatars alone can descend to the ordinary plane from the state of samadhi for the good of the world. Ordinary jeeves do not. Disciple. When in samadhi the mind is immersed and there remains no waves on the surface of consciousness, where then is the possibility of mental activity and returning to the world through the consciousness of ego? When there is no mind, then who will descend from samadhi to the relative plane and by what means? Swamiji. The conclusion of the Vedanta is that when there is absolute samadhi and cessation of all modifications, there is no return from that state. As the Vedanta aphorism says, there is no non-return from scriptural texts. But the avatars cherish a few desires for the good of the world. By taking hold of that thread, they come down from the superconscious to the conscious state. The power of Ojas. The yogis say that the part of the human energy which is expressed as sex energy and sexual thought, when checked and controlled, easily becomes changed into Ojas. Ojas is stored up in the brain, and the more Ojas is in a man's head, the more powerful he is, the more intellectual and the more spiritually strong. One man may speak beautiful language and beautiful thoughts, but they do not impress people. Another man speaks neither beautiful language nor beautiful thoughts, yet his words charm. Every movement of his is powerful. That is the power of Ojas. It is only the chaste man or woman can make the Ojas rise and store it in the brain. That is why chastity has always been considered the highest virtue. A man feels that if he is unchaste, the spirituality goes away. He loses mental vigor and moral stamina. That is why all the religions orders in the world which have produced spiritual giants, you will find absolute chastity insisted upon. That is why the monks came into existence, giving up marriage. There must be perfect chastity in thought, word, and deed. The mystery of learning. A few days ago, a new set of Encyclopedia Britannica had been bought for the mutt. Seeing the new shining volumes, the disciple said to Swamiji, "It is most impossible to read all these books in a single lifetime." He was unaware that Swamiji had already finished 10 volumes and had begun the 11th. Swamiji, what do you say? Ask me anything you like from these 10 volumes and I will answer you all. The disciple asked in wonder, "Have you read all these books?" Swamiji, why should I ask you to question me otherwise? Being examined, Swamiji not only reproduced the sense, but at all places the very language of the difficult topics selected from each volume. The disciple, astonished, put aside the books and saying, "That is not within human power." Swamiji, do you see, simply by the observance of strict brahmacharya continence, all learning can be mastered in a very short time. One has an unfailing memory of what hears or knows but once. The power of the mind. The science of Raj Yoga, in the first place, proposes to give us such a means of observing the internal states. The instrument is the mind itself. The power of attention, when properly guided and directed towards the internal world, would analyze the mind and illumine facts for us. The powers of the mind are like rays of the light dissipated. When they are concentrated, they illumine. This is ours only means of knowledge. The world is ready to give up its secrets if we only know how to knock, how to give it the necessary blow. The strength and force of the blow come through concentration. There is no limit to the power of the human mind. The more concentrated it is, the more power is brought to bear on one point, and that is the secret. Mystery mongering. Anything that is secret and mysterious in these systems of yoga should be at once rejected. The best guide in life is strength. In religion, as in all others matters, discard everything that weakens you. Have nothing to do with it. Mystery mongering weakens the human brain. It has well nigh destroyed yoga, one of the grandest of sciences. Follow the middle path. A yogi must avoid the two extremes of luxury and austerity. He must not fast nor torture his flesh. He who does so, says the Gita, cannot be a yogi. He who fasts, he who keeps awake, he who sleeps much, he who works too much, he who does no work, none of these can be a yogi. The royal path. The science of Raj Yoga proposes to put forth humanity a practical and scientifically worked out method of teaching this truth. In the first place, every science must have its own method of investigation. If you want to become an astronomer and sit down and cry, astronomy and astronomy, it will never come to you. The same with chemistry. A certain method must be followed. You must go to a laboratory, take different substances, mix them up, compound them, experiment with them, and out of that will come a knowledge of chemistry. If you want to be an astronomer, you must go on to an observatory. Take a telescope, study the stars and planets, and then you will become an astronomer. Each science must have its own methods. I could preach you thousands of sermons, but they would not make you religious until you practice the method. Effects of meditation. Day and night think and meditate on Brahmand. Meditate with great one-pointedness of mind. And during the time of awakeness to outward life, either do some work for the sake of others or repeat in your mind, let good happen to jivas and the world. Let the mind of all flow in the direction of Brahman. Even by such continuous current of the thought of the world will be benefited. Nothing good in the work becomes fruitless, be it work or thought. Your thought currents will perhaps rouse the religious feeling of someone in America. Swamiji said this at the monastery of Belur Mutt near Calcutta, speaking to an Indian disciple. In the hours of meditation, you must keep the mind fixed on one object like an unbroken stream of oil. The ordinary man's mind is scattered on different objects, and at the time of meditation, too, the mind is at first apt to wander. But let any desire whatever arise in the mind, you must sit calmly and watch what sort of ideas are coming. By continuing to watch in that way, the mind becomes calm, and there is no more thought waves in it. These waves represent the thought activity of the mind. Those things that you have previously thought deeply have transformed themselves into a subconscious current, and therefore these come up in the mind in meditation. The rise of these waves of thoughts during meditation is an evidence that your mind is tending towards concentration. Sometimes the mind is concentrated on a set of ideas. This is called meditation with vikalp or oscillation. But when the mind becomes almost free from all activities, it melts in the inner self, which is the essence of infinite knowledge, one and itself its own support. This is what is called nirvikalp samadhi, free from all activities. In Sri Ramakrishna, we have again and again noticed both these forms of samadhi. He had not to struggle to get these states. They came to him spontaneously, then and there. It was a wonderful phenomenon. It was by seeing him that we could rightly understand these things. Emotions and meditation. Meditate every day alone. Everything will open up of itself. During meditation, suppress the emotional side altogether. This is a great source of danger. Those that are very emotional, no doubt, have their kundalini rushing quickly upwards, but it is as quick to come down as to go up. But when it does come down, it leaves the devotee in a state of utter ruin. It is for this reason that kirtans and other auxiliary to emotional development have a great drawback. It is true that by dancing and jumping, etc., through a momentary impulse, that power is made to course upwards, but it is never enduring. On the contrary, When it traces back its course, it rouses violent lust in the individual. But this happens simply owing to the lack of steady practice in meditation and concentration. Disciple: Sir, in no scriptures have I read these secrets of spiritual practice. Today I have heard quite a new things. Swamiji: Do you think that the scriptures contain all the secrets of spiritual practice? These are being handed down secretly to a succession of gurus and disciples. Don't leave out a single day. If you have too much pressing work, go through the spiritual exercises for at least a quarter of an hour. Can you reach the goal without steadfast devotion, my son? Read your own life. Control the mind, cut off the senses, then you are a yogi. After that, all the rest will come. Refuse to hear, to see, to smell, to taste. Take away the mental power from the external organs. You continually do it unconsciously when your mind is absorbed, so you can learn to do it consciously. The mind can put the senses where it pleases. Get rid of the fundamental superstition that we are obliged to act through the body. We are not. Go into your own room and get the Upanishads out of your own shelf. You are the greatest book that has ever or will be, the infinite dispository of all that is. Until the inner teacher opens, all the outside teaching is in vain. Books are useless to us until our own books open. Then all other books are good so far as they confirm our book. It is the strong that understands strength. It is the elephant that understands the lion, not the rat. How can we understand Jesus until we are his equals? It is all in the dream to feed 5,000 with 2 loaves, or to feed 2 with 5 loaves. Neither is real and neither affects the other. Only grandeur appreciates grandeur. Only God realizes God. We are the living books and the books but the words we have spoken. Everything is the living God, the living Christ. See it as such. Read man. He is a living poem. We are all the light that illuminates the Bibles of Christ and Buddhas that ever were. Without that, these would be dead to us, not living. 8 limbs of yoga. This yoga is to be known as the Eightfold Yoga because it is divided into 8 principal parts. These are: first, yam. This is the most important as to govern the whole life. It has 5 divisions. First, not injuring any being by thought, word, or deed. Second, non-covetousness in thought, word, or deed. Third, the perfect chastity in thought, word, or deed. Fourth, perfect truthfulness in thought, word, or deed. Fifth, non-receiving of gifts. Second, niyam, the bodily care, bathing daily, dietary, etc. Third, asana, posture. Hips, shoulders, and head must be held straight, leaving the spine free. Fourth, pranayam, restraining the breath in order to get control of prana or vital force. Fifth, pratyahara, turning the mind inward and restraining it from going outward, resolving the matter in the mind in order to understand it. Sixth, dharan, concentration on one subject. Seventh, dhyan, meditation. Eighth, samadhi, illumination, the aim of all our efforts. He who seeks to come to God through Raj Yoga must be strong mentally, physically, morally, and spiritually. Take every step in that light. At the threshold. This is a lesson seeking to bring out the individuality. Each individuality must be cultivated. All will meet the center. Imagination is the door to inspiration and all the bases of all thought. All prophets, poets, and discoverers have had great imaginative power. The explanation of nature is in us. The stone falls outside, but the gravitation is in us, not outside. Those who stuff themselves, those who starve themselves, those who sleep too much, those who sleep too little, cannot become yogis. Ignorance, fickleness, jealousy, laziness, and excessive attachment are the great enemies to success in yoga practice. The three great requisites are: first, purity, physical and mental. All uncleanness, that would draw the mind down, must be abandoned. Second, patience. At first, there will be wonderful manifestations, but they all will cease. That is the hardest period, but hold fast. At the end, the gain is sure if you have patience. Third, perseverance. Persevere through thick and thin, through health and sickness. Never miss a day in practice. Meditate in silence. It is impossible to find God outside of ourselves. Our own soul contributes all the divinity that is outside of us. We are the greatest temple. The objectification is only a faint imitation of what we see within ourselves. Concentration of the powers of the mind is our only instrument to help us see God. If you know one soul, your own, you know all souls past, present, and to come. The will concentrates the mind. Certain things excite and control this will, such a reason, love, devotion, breathing. The concentrated mind is a lamp that shows us every corner of the soul. Truth cannot be partial. It is for the good of all. Finally, in the perfect rest and peace, meditate upon it. Concentrate your mind upon it. Make yourself one with it. Then, no speech is needed. Silence will carry the truth. Do not spend your energy in talking, but meditate in silence, and do not let the rush of the outside world disturb you. When your mind is in the highest state, you are conscious of it. Accumulate power in silence and become a dynamo of spirituality.